Today I'm going to be installing a Garmin EchoMap 73DV, and this is the head unit I'm going to be installing on my brand new boat. And basically what I'm going to be doing is running the wires all the way from the power and running my transducer wire, which gets connected right into here. Super simple. I'm very excited to do this. It's springtime, so you know that means it's going to be spring leg trout fishing and striper fishing and bass fishing. So it's time I get the boat ready. I've pretty much got everything done, but I'm going to do a tutorial on how to install a fish finder. I'm going to show you guys the tools I'm using and everything you pretty much need. You can install any kind of Garmin fish finder on any kind of boat, kayak, whatever. It's very simple, and I'm just going to run you through the entire process here. Alright, so these are all the material you need. You need zip ties, you need a cable, you need silicone, you're going to need some power drills, shrink wrap, crimp connectors, crimps, wire strippers, a pre-drill, and I do recommend getting a snake. I do have a little track here I'm going to be running that wire through. But yeah, I've got my 16-foot Lund right here. Pretty much a brand new boat. Bought it used with 30 miles on it. Got a 40 horse Mercury 4-stroke. That's gonna be awesome to use. And yeah, I'll pretty much just go over how I'm gonna do this. Okay, so I have the transducer pre-assembled right here, and there was originally a fish finder right here, and all I'm gonna be doing is I removed the screws, and I'm just going to align my transducer, which is going to be the device reading underneath the water. It has little clamps right here I can use, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dab each hole that's penetrated into the boat with some silicone for extra precaution. So what I'll do is I'll screw the transducer in, and then I'll screw the little screws in that hold the wire. So this is just a piece of wood right here. It's not actually being drilled into the boat. Those holes have already been sealed, so this one comes with little screws right here. And I'll align this where I want it. There we go. I'll get my second screw in. Not too crazy. So now I'll begin running the wire for the transducer. I'll take my outside silicone, and I'll just put a little bit of silicone on the threads of the screw. I'll dab a little bit up around the hole. Skeet, skeet. Get that screw in. Make sure it's aligned the way I want it. It's going to be there for a very long time. There we go. Very good. That's not going anywhere. So now it's time to run my power cable all the way from the head unit all the way down to the battery. And I usually power it off the cranking motor battery, because if I do wire my transducer battery to my electric trolling motor battery, it gives it interference and it makes both the devices act kind of weird. So I recommend doing it off the starting battery. So that's what I'm gonna do here. So another thing I probably should have mentioned is I'm gonna have to splice the wires for the connection they gave me, because these wires are clearly not gonna be long enough. So I have extra cable right here. This way I can extend the wire. So I'll use that fish tape. Alright. Fish tape. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my connection on my batteries, and then I'm just going to work it all the way back to the fish finder. This way I can run all the slack out and I can make all the zip ties nice and neat. Alright, so I have my brand new starting battery right here. So I'm going to splice the wires onto my negative and my positive. I am going to need a heat gun for this, and I also do have 2 terminal connectors. These ones automatically have a little bit of shrink wrap on them, so let's get to work here. This is just some scrap wire I received, but it's gonna work for what I'm doing. So I'll just cover these wires right here. These are unnecessary. And now I just have my red and my black, and I'll strip each end here. Strip my positive, I'll strip my negative. So now what I'll do is I'll take this right here. We'll use our crimp tool. I always crimp with the flat end. Oops, I missed it. That wire is still in there, so that's good. There we go. And make sure that's got a good connection. Sweet. For anything that is submersible, it is recommended that you do get these shrink wrapped. This way the connection is completely sealed. It doesn't have corrosion in the future. So that's just something I'm going to do real quick. There we go. Now we got some perfectly nice connections right here. So what I'll do is I'll wire the rest of the battery as I do this. Alrighty, so I have my power cable finally ran underneath my center console, and then here is the adapter to get onto the fish finder. One mistake I realized I have to make, I have to splice this wire onto here, so I'm going to disconnect the power from the battery, and then I'm going to shrink wrap my connection right here underneath the center console. So I have my power connections coming from the battery, and then I have my power connections onto my little adapter right there. So what I'll do is I'll make sure I have my heat shrink tube on right here, and I'll get my other heat shrink tube on right here. I'm gonna need my crimps. Do my positives first. It's going to look something like that. Make sure both wires are centered inside the crimp. We'll squeeze that. Squeeze that. Give it the old pull test. Seems pretty good, but I'll give it another squeeze just to make sure that connection is nice and tight. This is electricity. Boom. We have my positive connection, and now we'll do my negative connection. And now I'll put the heat shrink over it. And there we go. I'm gonna make that hole a little bigger. There we go. There we go. Now I'll get my holes here for my mounting bracket of the head unit. Now I gotta go slide these nuts on from underneath here. It's gonna be real fun. I have my head unit right here. I'll remove that cover. It's a little wet. Dry that off. All right. So we got our power connector, even says power right there. We'll plug this into it. I think that just goes in just like that. And then we have our transducer cable right here. I think that just goes in like that. That can just go in something like that. And then it has these two little ears right here. All right, and now the moment of truth. Oh, it turned on. Let's go. Garmin. Agree. I think I just. Oh, cool. Ah, the map of Lake George. There we go. The fish finder is installed. And, you know, if I move my tools out of the way, it actually looks nice and neat. Both my wires are just running from here, underneath here, all the way. There goes my transducer wire, and here's my power wire running nice, snug, all the way to my battery right there. Awesome.